just can't do it without that little song.
Have you seen the? It's a viral video of the old Reno 911 of the guy getting a sobriety check, and he's obviously hammered. He's an old cowboy in a pickup.
He's dancing
and
yes.
he does the alphabet backwards, and the cop goes, "Nobody's ever actually been able to do that before."
Really?
Greatness.
I've seen the one where he's doing I guess it's a line dance with the cop on the side of the road, and he does it perfectly, and then he blows the one step, and she goes, "God, what happened?" He goes, "Oh, I'm drunk."
We got you. Okay, so I have a curiosity about oil painting. I don't have any talent in this realm.
Yeah.
You know, I'll draw on napkins for my family for a laugh and stuff. But
right.
What is the life like for somebody who puts out as many excellent oil paintings as you do? Do you get up in the morning and have coffee and go to work in the studio for a certain number of hours, or what's your deal?
That's a great question. I do now. It's taken me a long time to really realize I'm happier when I kind of do what the rest of society does, which is to say, get up in the morning and then start work. But for a long time, I used to kind of let the business of life get in the way, and I would find myself working till like 2 or 3 in the morning to compensate for that. And that was just really a drag on my energy. And it really kind of sapped my self-esteem too. So I get up in the morning now, and I have I have kind of a work plan, and basically it's like I know where my next painting is coming from. It's like I'll say to myself, well, okay, I've got this still life set up, which I do right now and I'm working on, or the leaves are turning, so I want to get outside and I want to paint the cottonwoods while they turn. But
the aspens up on the mountain.
God, I got to do that. I got to go up on the hill and paint the aspens because those are so cool. But I try to do it like a regular 9-to-5 job, work 5 days a week. Friday and Saturday are my days off. Though I actually paint on one of those days, but because I tell myself it's a day off, it doesn't feel like working.
Gotcha. I get that. And so how many, do you have a studio in your, where you live?
I work in my room. I rent a room in a house, and I share a house with this guy. And it's a little cramped right now because I'm getting ready to do open studio. So I paint in one corner, sleep in the other, and then everything else is dominated by frames or boxes of paintings right now, and it's getting a little tight. So I need to get some of the work out.
I'm sympathetic because I don't feel right and haven't my whole life if I don't have a guitar near the bed. I've just got to have a guitar near the bed. Yeah, because it's first off, it's a security blanket.
Yeah.
And also, if at 2 a.m. I go, does that go to a minor? I can grab the guitar and go, nah, it's not a minor. It just seems like it.
Exactly. and I've done that. I'll be laying awake and I'll think I've got to soften the edge. I've got to go back with the brush and just soften that edge. And I'll get up and do that. And then it's like, and now I can sleep.
Yes. And as an alcoholic and an addict, I don't do uncomfortable. If I got an itch, I'm scratching that sumbitch.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I keep waiting for that to change. I've been sober a long, long time now, but I have found
What are the numbers, Bill? How long? How old were you when you got sober, and how long?
26 when I got sober. I'm 66 now, so I'm coming up. Well, no, I am 39. I'm not coming up on anything. I am 39. I think my tolerance for anxiety has lessened the longer I've been sober. That, or I'm just more aware of being uncomfortable with it and not liking it. I think when I was new, I was kind of able to do that stuff easier because it was so familiar. It was kind of what was on the menu.
What do you mean, what stuff? What do you mean by that?
Anxiety, depression, that sort of thing.
Well, if you're talking about back when we had one tool, which was anesthetic.
That was it. Yeah. But even in the first few years of sobriety, it's like I had a lot of anxiety and depression.
And you could feel it.
Oh, I could feel it. And I was
now, and you mean depression like with a capital D depression, the real deal, or just sadness?
The real deal, though, I didn't know that for a long, long time. And I think like a lot of people in recovery, I just assumed, well, this is the landscape and this is how it is and this is how I think. And then I kind of hit I hit the wall around 20 plus years, really hit the wall. And I'd been one of those AA guys who foolishly mocked Al-Anon. And so they brought me into Al-Anon on a stretcher.
Why? I hear recovery from alcoholism and depression. How does that lead to Al-Anon? What do you mean?
It really became clear that a lot of the ideas in my head were not my own. They were implanted or borrowed, in my case, from my folks who drank. My dad drank a lot. My mom was an Al-Anon. My mom was an Al-Anon. She was not in Al-Anon. I should clarify that. So, I just had a lot of stuff running around in my head that it became clear this is unhealthy, unhappy thinking. It's the classic stuff that people have when they grow up in an alcoholic household of like walking on eggshells. Yep. I'm not enough. I've got to please everybody before I please myself. I don't dare talk about my feelings. I don't dare ask you to please stop doing something that I don't like. All that kind of stuff. A lot of change around then. A lot of change around 20 years.
You and I are about the same age. And so my parents were pretty on the older side when I was born. Yeah. And therefore they were greatest generation.
Right.
Dad was young in World War II. He lied about his age to get into World War II.
Wow.
And mom was a little younger than he. But, that was the generation that I was raised by.
The norm.
And that's so long gone. It's like talking about the Civil War now at this point. But so was you too? Was that my parents didn't talk about themselves. They weren't mean or hostile. They just didn't. It wasn't one of the things they did. My dad served in 2 wars. I know much about that. And a marriage I know nothing about. Nothing.
A marriage before the one that produced you?
That's right.
Wow.
I don't know shit about that.
How old are you?
I'm 63.
Okay, yeah. I've got a few years on you, so.
But not much. But my parents were, pretty, like I say, pretty old.
Yeah.
I do think that parents who survived the Great Depression and World War II and so on, they were pretty closed-mouthed and pretty stoic.
Yeah. I mean, my dad told me stories about when he was growing up. They knew people growing up in Fresno and Bakersfield, people who starved to death, during the Depression.
In the breadbasket of America.
Breadbasket of America.
I know the Central Valley of California. It's nothing but farms. Millions of them.
Yeah. And
wow. I never heard that.
He had the experience that I think a lot of guys of his generation did. Grew up in the Depression. Lousy parents. There's a story.
I'm sorry. We're talking about your dad?
My dad.
Okay.
My dad.
I'm with you.
No. My dad's father had a girlfriend on the side who also had another boyfriend, and he drove past the family house and shot it up one night. Bullets flying through the house, and this is his childhood. And then, went away to war, went away to World War II, and his dad failed to show up to say goodbye to him when he was getting on the troop ship as he went away to war. So just that yawning sense of abandonment and impending violence. And the only thing I think that worked for my father was discipline. And the discipline of Army life. And I think that was probably the first time in his life that his life worked. And this is me just theorizing. He never spoke about any of this. But I feel he came back to the States with really 3 tools under his belt: discipline, anger, and alcohol.
Alcohol. I knew that was coming.
Alcohol. Yeah, you knew it was coming. And he was just tormented. He was a terrible father.
I'm sorry. That stinks.
Well, I had, growing up, people confronted him in the supermarket that we all went to twice that I know of.
Where'd you grow up, Bill?
Grew up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, in a town called Orinda. But my dad was confronted by people saying, you got to lay off that boy. You're going to ruin him. I got in trouble for that.
Wait a second. Dad was mad because
people were talking.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Man, so do you feel like, the way I do, you were born to drink? I mean, the first time that shit hit me, I was like, nah, I found a red button I could push that made it all better. Why would I not do that?
Well, I very quickly figured out I much preferred being drunk to being me.
There you go.
Far and
I don't think a normal person understands that the problem is sobriety. if you felt like I felt when I was sober.
Yeah.
Because I, for my part, I didn't particularly care for alcohol, the taste of it or the after effects of it. I just liked my head stopping.
Yeah. Yeah. Turning off that head, big, loud head is just crucial. Just crucial.
Did you go to art school?
I did when I sobered up.
Late 20s? Okay.
I sobered up when I was 26, and I worked early in my sobriety, I had just some goofy jobs. I did construction in North Beach, California. There was a nightclub that had burned down. And so I got on with the crew that was tearing down the nightclub. And what they did with me was I was on skilled labor. They put me on the roof with a sledgehammer to knock down the roof. And a couple hours into the job, someone figured out, if the roof comes down and he's on top of it, he's going to come down with the roof. So what they did was they tied a rope around my waist and they tied that to a tree in the adjacent property. So if the roof came down...
Dude, you were like that song Amos Moses, throw him in the swamp for the alligators and try a rope around his...
Yeah. It's a Curious George kind of safety maneuver. But I did that. I worked for a guy in the East Bay.
Wait a second. Did the roof hold? Or did you go take a film?
The roof came down of its own while we were at lunch.
There's more than one way to skin a cat.
It's funny. No one has ever asked me what happened to the roof. You're the first person to ask me.
So you're in, I'm sorry, one of the most beautiful places on the planet.
Yeah.
And you're newly sober. And were you the first in your family to have the urge to paint?
No, my uncle on my mom's side was a remarkable artist, also a musician. He actually played behind Ella Fitzgerald once.
Holy. Okay.
Yeah, played the clarinet. But
I'm a guitar guy.
Yeah.
Clarinet was guitar before guitar was guitar.
Such a beautiful voice to the clarinet. So pretty.
Yeah, very human, and it was loud enough. So it was the lead. Artie Shaw and Benny Goodman.
And it could kind of wail and sob all at the same time.
Yeah, it was the top
remarkable.
thing for swing.
Yeah, but he was also a visual artist. And he worked for commercial concerns, advertising companies.
They call that an illustrator, don't they?
Call that an illustrator.
Okay.
But he worked on Yogi Bear. He drew, remember, I Wish I Were an Oscar Mayer Wiener, that commercial?
I certainly do.
He did all the animation for that, drew all the kids. They famously asked him. Yeah. They said, what do you...
I can picture it now.
Yeah. They said, what do you think of this Oscar Mayer jingle we've got? He said, that's the dumbest song of all time. Of course, it went on to be one of the greatest advertising jingles ever. But
Phil Spector used to say, is this dumb enough? When he had a song ready to go. Yeah.
Did he really?
I want it stupid so it sticks in people's heads.
He's right.
He's right.
Yeah.
By Menon. How in the world do I still know the Menon jingle?
See, I don't remember that one, but I've got a couple from the past. Milton the Monster, I remember that one. Remember
Your
that?
brand new son.
Your brand new son.
Thank you.
He goes, hello, Daddy.
Yeah. I probably don't know where my car keys are at this moment, but,
But Milton the Monster, yeah.
And Oscar Mayer. So you had a little bit of art on your mom's side in the family, but here you are. Had you gone to college in your earlier 20s?
I tried. I went to college as a way of manipulating my dad to foot the bill,
Yeah.
Classic move. And then I sobered up and I was working roofing and trimming trees and whatnot.
God damn, those are hard jobs.
Really hard.
Dangerous and hard.
And
when somebody says they messed with trees, I got respect. Those things are not what they look like when you're driving past them. They're murder.
Not forgiving.
They're murder.
And the guy I worked for was a guy who I'd grown up with. He was one of the guys I first got drunk with. He turned out to be functionally insane. And I was working for this guy's tree trimming company. And I thought, I got to get out of here. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I had been the kid in high school who, drew all the silly stuff that guys do. And
so you had the knack for the line. You knew what to do with this.
I thought I did.
Okay.
So I went to school with about 2.5, 3 years sobriety under my belt. I still remember the first drawing class I was in. I was sitting down and we were drawing from the model and I was really excited to be there. And I was working from the top down. And
a person.
A person. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No,
yes.
it's okay.
A guy dressed as a cowboy. And we were drawing this guy dressed as a cowboy. I'd gotten the hat done and I was thinking, I feel pretty good about this hat. And I happened to look over at the kid next to me, who was this guy named Peter Chan. And Peter Chan had drawn the world. He had just done everything with so much pizzazz and flair and verve. And I was just like, so it was art school is hard. People think art school's a dodge. Art school's brutal because it just hits you at every level. Every day you are judged every day on how well you were doing. I didn't count on that. And I was very immature at the time.
And you're sitting next to Salvador Dali, trying to keep up.
Right. And a lot of the kids there were just great. And then there were a lot of kids there like me who were just kind of knuckleheads. They wanted to be an artist, but they didn't really know what they were getting into. It finally, in the last year or two I was there, I finally figured out, I'm here to learn, not to cover my ass and avoid unpleasant situations.
So you went deeper inside.
Went deeper inside. My sponsor at the time, great guy, this guy named Ed, he listened to me a lot about what I was going through. And then finally he got kind of fed up with...
What were you going through? What do you mean?
Sure. I was going through a lot of self-esteem stuff about how good I was as a draftsperson, as a painter. I had my first sober relationship, which just flattened me. It completely fell apart. So Ed was really good. He kind of guided me through all that stuff, those first big feelings sober. And I don't know about you, but I had a couple things on my list that I thought, if this happens and I feel this way, I'm going to drink because I don't know any other way to go through that sort of pain. And I went through this stuff and didn't drink.
Right.
And it really surprised me. And it happened in my first couple semesters in art school. I had a lot of other repercussions. I didn't sleep for a long time, for like a month or so. Had trouble eating because I was really upset.
So you're having sort of a breakdown, for lack of a better...
Breakdown, but going to school, doing my best. Right. And Ed was great. Ed shoved me during all this into sponsoring a guy, which is classic. Because it got my mind off me for a little bit.
If you feel like shit helps somebody, it's good for both of you.
Yeah. And Ed was, he was our age now, maybe a little younger. So he was old school, literally old school. He told me at one point, he goes, I'm just kind of tired of your whining. He goes, when I first met you, you were in really good shape trimming trees. He goes, now, you're not so robust. Why don't you join a gym? And he shoved me into physical health. He shoved me into sponsorship. He encouraged me to eat better. He had me go to meetings and sit in front. He asked me the immortal question.
Well, you look fully 10 years younger than you are right now.
Well, thanks. So do you.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
I thought you were in your late 50s.
Okay. It's all city miles, Bill.
Yeah, right.
I promise.
Right. No, Ed was great. He did this thing with me during that period. I always showed up at meetings late because I liked the attention I got when people looked at me.
Okay.
And Ed said, those people who look up at you at meetings when you walk in late? And I go, yeah. He goes, they hate you.
I like Ed.
He was great. He was great.
Where were you by then? Were we still in California?
Still in California. Graduated from art school. Worked as an illustrator. Like my uncle, I wanted to do commercial art. And illustration at the time was really frowned upon, seemingly, by a lot of the fine arts community, and other fine arts students really looked down on it. And so I kind of felt strange about that.
What does illustration mean? You got a client? You're drawing for piecework? Or what's the... Yeah. Okay. So what's wrong with that? You got a gig. You got a paycheck.
Thank you. Absolutely nothing. I mean, the Sistine Chapel is technically illustration.
Right. You got to. That's what I'm saying. You got a boss who's paying it.
Yeah.
Wah.
Yeah. So
you can afford a car.
I did that for a while,
and you're good enough to have people pay you. You know, to me, that's like getting paid for your art is a high compliment.
It's a huge compliment, and it's a great thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. But it wasn't really a good fit.
Wouldn't that also be? And I don't know if this is a controversy. I don't know much about the art world, frankly. Yeah. But Norman Rockwell was an illustrator, right?
Norman Rockwell was.
He was pretty fucking fantastic. What's up?
N.C. Wyeth was.
Thank you.
Pyle was. Chuck Pyle was a drawing instructor of mine, great guy. The golden age of illustration was in the 1900s, the first half of the century. And I launched...
Ted Geisel, Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, right. Right. All those guys.
Love that stuff.
All those guys. And too, a lot of the great fine artists worked in that realm.
Why would you not? That's what's available unless you're born to money.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah. I was not a very good illustrator. Technically, I wasn't very good. I had work sent back, which is the hallmark of shame. The client would send it back and say, "Can you redo this?" Yeah. You had to cold call people on the phone and kind of sell yourself, and that is not my strong suit. I don't like doing that. And what happened was my dad died and left me a little bit of money. And I'd already put myself through art school before. I worked for the school. I worked for a coffee shop in San Francisco nights called Double Rainbow. Paying my rent and paying my tuition at the time.
Of course.
So my dad left me some money, and I thought, I've got a little breathing room here.
Yeah, right.
And I'd always kind of really wanted to be a painter. I didn't know how to paint at this point. I used an airbrush and color pencils. So I thought, I want to learn how to paint. And I thought, well, I've got a pretty good skill set already. So picking up painting should just be a couple classes, which is famous last words. So I went back to school to the same place where I'd already gotten a degree.
So would this be like, I've played guitar for 50 years. Would this be like me waking up going, how hard could piano be? I'm going to learn piano.
Oh, yeah. It was, I was pretty full of baloney.
Okay.
I don't think you would make that statement from what little I know about you.
I would not.
You would not. But I did. And,
okay.
But it was great. I've been really lucky. One of the things that's happened for me in recovery, I had a really bad relationship with my dad, which is classic for guys our age. But I keep running into, in my recovery, mentors, father figures, for lack of a better phrase. And I ran into this guy at the Academy of Art in the Fine Arts Department named Craig Nelson, who is just a great guy. And he was kind of my painting mentor. He doesn't know this, but that's how I feel about him.
I understand.
I learned how to paint under his tutelage and other people. And I was a lot more serious now. I was only like 3 or 4 years older. No, more like 7 or 8 years older than when I'd graduated. But I really bared down hard this time. I really worked hard. And I really made painting my second focus. My sobriety was always my first focus. I got told that early on, if you put AA first, everything else will work out. And
isn't that crazy? Isn't that just crazy?
It's true. It's true.
I am a very practical person.
Yeah, you are.
I am very 2 + 2 makes 4.
Yeah.
I'm not what they call here Santa Fe woo-woo. I'm not.
No.
There's not much hippie in me. There's just not. But I find that if I clean up my messes with people, and if I be where I say I'm going to be when I say I'm going to be there, and don't lie, and follow the basic rules of decency, which I actually did grow up with my dad as a good example of. My dad was cool.
Yeah.
He was a very simple. He was educated and he was smart, but he didn't head trip a lot.
Right.
He just took care of business and everything kind of worked out. And I just was he didn't have this disease of addiction that I've got. And so it made it impossible. It was like trying to reach through the windshield of a car to reach something on the hood. You just couldn't, you could see it, but you couldn't get to it.
That's a great analogy.
But now in sobriety, I'm all in on one day at a time. It's like my favorite. That's my favorite thing.
It just makes things so much easier.
That Bill would go. I don't know why it popped in the piano remark, but Bill Murray movie Groundhog Day.
Great movie.
He shows up, hands that lady a brick of cash to get rid of her other piano students, and pretty soon he's playing piano pretty good.
Yeah,
he was like, God damn it, and you can't ever see it when you're on the long trail, but you look back after years and you've gotten somewhere.
Yeah.
In any endeavor. Well, Your work is inspiring.
Thanks.
I let you in the studio today, and thanks for coming. Thanks for
having me.
And I saw your shoes. I'm like, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah.
You know shoes and you know painting. I've seen them in your.
I've painted my shoes a lot.
Are you George O'Keeffe with that door?
Excuse me?
George O'Keeffe, I guess, painted the same door many, many times.
Oh, she did. That's right. You know, I never really looked at her work until I moved here, and she's rather good.
Yeah, she's got something, that kid. And if you'll go to her museum here in Santa Fe, there's an introductory video, I think probably by local homeboy Gene Hackman narrating it. Yeah. But yeah, apparently we've all got the wrong idea about her, and her story is fantastic.
Bright lady, really fascinating. She did this thing. At one point in her career, she felt that all her work was derivative, and she assembled it all in a pile and burned it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The feathers in the back of my neck just went up. Okay, I have a question. She was a New Yorker, and for, I can't remember the story, but she ended up here in New Mexico for a second, looked around and said, this light, I got to come here and get me some. And now I'm a movie nut. I'm pretty good at spotting Los Angeles light. When I'm watching a movie, I've just got a feel for it. You can tell Warner Brothers from Universal, from MGM, but you can tell when they're outdoors, there's something about the light of Southern Cal. Yeah. I spent my years in Southern Cal. We have that natural tension, you and me, from the Northern Cal versus Southern Cal. Yeah. When I was a kid, it was Texas versus Oklahoma. Yeah. Is there something about the light here in New Mexico that when you're walking around outdoors, you go, shit, man, this is great? Or what's it like to?
That's a great question. It's funny you're mentioning light in Southern California. I always think of the movie Chinatown, where the little boy is riding the horse through the gully.
Absolutely.
And it's morning. No one has to tell you that's shot in the morning. I'm just too stupid to notice things like the light most of the time. But the thing I noticed is like how clear things are, like mountains that would be just shrouded in haze and fog and fumes and God knows what. Like even like, the Ortiz or the Sandias that are like 30, 40 miles away, sharp relief, brilliant outline, intense color. That I did notice right away. One of the things that happened when I first moved here, I moved here to be in a class for 9 months. I taught at my alma mater, the Academy of Art, for 10 years. And one of the great things that happened to me was my ego beat the shit out of me, because I would look at student work and think, that's really good. I can't do that, and I want to get better. And my ego
good man,
pushed me into this position of forced humility, which, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
I get it. And here you are in the land of entrapment.
Yeah. But I've been here 2 weeks and everyone was so nice. The people here are so great. And I was thinking like, my program must just be tip top. And then I realized, no, they're just nice. You're the same old California asshole. They're just nice people here.
Oh, dude, I'm their worst nightmare. Yeah. When people go, where are you from? I'm like, well, all right.
Yeah.
You ask a straight question. I'm a Texan who moved here from Hollywood. How do you like me now? Listen, we do 30-minute episodes, and this one's out. But one of the great pleasures of this show is getting to know people at a pretty deep level, and I feel like I've really gotten to know some stuff about you.
Thanks a lot.
This conversation, and
likewise.
I just think you're great, Bill. Thanks for what you do.
Thanks, Sherman. I appreciate it.
And talent cuts a lot of ice with me, and you're a monster talent.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
All right, amigo. We'll see you.